Hi everybody and welcome to Racer TV. Today we're in San Bernardino, California for round number 1 of the ITP Moose Racing ATV National Motocross Series presented to you by Parts Unlimited. I'm Rodney Tuttle along with Susie Meister.
Rodney, I'll tell you what, these guys are determined to make this the best year ever in ATV racing. I talked to them earlier and they are revved up and ready to go to steal the crown from John Natale.
And I know one of those riders that's revved up and ready to steal that crown. A lot of eyes are going to be on the number 2 of Jeremiah Jones as he seems to be the hot shoe here this year, but I tell you, he's going to have a rough way to go, and he's got a rough racetrack to try to get it done in this first round.
Just how rough a racetrack does he have? Well, let's take a look at it through our Scott Goggles helmet cam, courtesy of the number 22 of Cody Miller, who's going to take us around this race course. We're going to get the first look at that first turn. That is the famed Talladega high-speed turn. It's a high-banking turn, and it allows these riders ample opportunity to keep that throttle at full bore in order to try to grab the best hole shot possible. As you can see, a lot of position jockeying as we make a couple of turns and head up our first uphill section here. We're going to take a right-hand turn and then downhill, and of course immediately after this we're going to be heading right up the biggest hill on the circuit, and probably one that will live in infamy for a lot of riders for a long time. It's called Mount St. Helens as we make our way off that first downhill section, and now the hard left-hander. Here we go, right straight up Mount St. Helens. This is about a 500 feet incline, and these riders are seeing them go from ground zero to about 500 feet to the top of this mountain in the matter of about 4 seconds. A lot of horsepower required to get to the top of this hill, because not only is it a steep hill, it is very, very long, and it zaps that horsepower that you have trying to make your way around this racetrack. Let's take a look at our first of our qualifiers now for the pro classes. We had 31 entries trying to vie for the top 20 spots. In reality, it'll be the top 11 through 20, because the top 10 riders from last year are actually seated. As we kick off qualifier number 1, it looks like Pat Brown grabs the early lead, but there's carnage in that Talladega turn. Though you may have a lot of high speed going through there, you also got to remember we're racing open wheel machines, so if they get together, there could be a little bit of a tangle up. Those riders will get back into the racing action in just a few moments. Right now, though, Pat Brown grabs the early lead and leads them here at Glen Helen Raceway. As we can see already, a battle beginning to wage with the number 52 of Dana Creech. Dana Creech knocking on the door of the 199 factory Yamaha rider of Pat Brown as we are early in this first qualifier. Now, I've got to remind you that we're only going to be taking the top 4. Brown gets a little bit out of shape there, and it looks like he and Creech maybe bump a little bit, but Creech gets the big advantage here and takes over the lead now. A short-lived lead, though, as the number 32 of Matt White will actually move into the number 1 spot now. The Yamaha rider from Warren, Pennsylvania, as he gets his glory here in the first round of this ATVA National Motocross Series. But quickly, the battling heats up as the number 75 of Joe Havistow knocks on the door, and we've got another battle for the lead position here. They get together here, and as you can see, both riders stall it out just before that big uphill section, the smallest of the big uphill sections, and Pat Brown moves back into the number 1 spot as he had gained up to a 3rd place position after falling all the way back to 4th place. And when Pat Brown made this pass, he was in somewhat of a comfortable lead, it looked like, but quickly refiring his machine, the number 75 of Joe Havistow has gotten right back into the race. And here on this closing lap of this first qualifier for these pros, again, this is Saturday qualifying, setting the stage for Sunday afternoon's Moto 1 and Moto 2. And it looks like Havistow is trying to make a name for himself early on here in this 2006 season as he is challenging Pat Brown for the lead with only a few turns to go now. Let's see if he can get around that factory Yamaha rider. Joe Havistow aboard the number 75 has got what looks like the lines coming into these last few turns, and it looks like he's actually going to make the pass, and Havistow will take the first win of our qualifiers here in the 2006 season aboard that number 75. Now we head to pro qualifier number 2, and once again, same scenario here. Only the top 4 will transfer. The remainder will go to a last chance qualifier from where we'll take only the top 2 in that position. But we're trying to narrow it down to the overall top 20. The top 10 are seated heading into tomorrow's race. 11 through 20 have got to battle it out for their position on the gate for Sunday's racing, and they do that on Saturdays at an ATVA National Motocross Series. Well, here at qualifier number 2, taking the early lead, the number 94 of Dustin Nelson. He's got company back there. Tavis Kane is in a heated battle for that number 1 spot early on here in qualifier number 2. Again, the top 4 positions are what's going to go, and you got got to wonder, are these guys letting it all hang out, or are they just trying to feel out the situation for tomorrow's racing? But right now, Kane looks like he may be trying to go for the win. Meanwhile, Nelson trying to separate himself from that race. But as these guys went on and raced it out, Luberg actually comes away with the lead late in the race. Jason Luberg out of Zanesville, Ohio, as we see here, moves in the number 1 spot. It is Nelson running in the number 2 spot at that point, and that's pretty much the way we see it as these riders make their way around this Glen Helen Raceway one last time. Luberg takes the win in qualifier number 2. Taking a look at the Moose ITP Pro Qualifier results, Luberg, Havistow, Nelson, Pat Brown, Harold Goodman, Dana Creech, Tavis Kane, and Matt White all transfer from Saturday's racing in their qualifiers. That's the way things were shaping up on Saturday. When we woke up on Sunday morning, we woke up to a visitor. The Santa Ana winds to the San Bernardino Valley. 70-mile-an-hour gusts is what we were looking at. As they were trying to clean up the pits, we were getting ready to go racing out on the racetrack. And D. Manshak reading the Champs ATV there, as you can see, tightening down those bolts. And, of course, Digger Doug Gust, a former champion in the ATVA National Motocross Series, is signing autographs over in the Suzuki pits, also showing off that new LTR 450 quad racer that was just released on Saturday, believe it or not. But as you can see, the autographs are going out and lots of fans still for Digger Doug, the 39-year-old man. And of course, some of those fans included Bill Balance, Brandon Balance, William Yoakley, and Johnny Gallagher, who Susie Meister had a chance to stop and talk to from the GNCCC.
Well, we're walking through the pro pits, and you never know who you're going to run into. And today we've run into Bill Balance. Welcome.
Thank you.
What are you doing here?
I'm just watching and relaxing, enjoying watching other people beat their brains out for once. So I'm just going to stand at the fence and talk to some people in the industry, come out to meet a lot of people, and work on some deals that I've got going on for 06, and just watch some of these motocross guys go out here and tear it up.
Haven't you had enough of it yet? You're the champ at GNCC.
No, you don't ever get enough of this stuff. Once it's in your blood, it stays there.
Do you have any kind of sibling rivalry with your brother?
Oh, bro and I, we battle that all the time. Back at home, on racing, wherever. You always got to push it. It's gotten to that point to where it's always feels like you're racing even though you're practicing.
He said that he's better than you.
Well, he's got 6 championships, so he's got the right to say that.
Are you going to pass him up?
I'm younger, tougher, and I got a few more years left in me. So to beat that record, yeah, it's almost nearly impossible. It's not impossible though, so there may be an ounce of luck there I might go through and have that same kind of luck he's had. And if I stay dedicated and stay in good health, it could happen.
I found William Yoakley, GNCC Pro. What are you doing here?
I'm just out here. I came out for the press release on the new 450Z on Wednesday with Suzuki, and just checking out the motocross world for the weekend, and I'm also just doing some riding while I'm out on the West Coast, getting ready for the GNCC opener.
So you just can't get enough of it?
Yeah, I can't get enough.
So last year you won the Ironman. Are you still recovering?
Oh, no, I'm recovered. I like that race. The Ironman's always been good to me. It's I favor those conditions, and I hope to win a few more this year other than the Ironman. I'd like to dethrone Balance and take that number 1 plate, but with this new Suzuki coming out, I think it'd be the right tool for the job.
Actually flew out with Hans, the owner of HMF Engineering. He's sponsoring John Natale this year. He's the first major GNC Pro to run the exhaust. I kind of brought Hans to the GNCCs about 3 years ago, I guess, and since then about 80% of the pro field runs his exhaust. We're kind of expanding things over here into the GNC side of things, and I don't know, just kind of came out, checked things out. Bill Balance and his brother Brandon are coming out. We're going to go up to Anaheim 3 to catch the Supercross tomorrow night. Just taking a weekend off. We've been down to Florida riding.
Well, as the GNCCers take the weekend off, our Pro-Am Unlimited and the rest of our ATV National Motocross stars are set and poised, ready to kick off their 2006 season. And it looks like here in our Pro-Am Unlimited class that the number 21 machine of Mark Kendall gets off to an extremely astounding start. But he does have pressure being applied to him right now, and that's out of the number 727 Yamaha of Cale Downen. Downen out of Junction, Illinois, is the second place ride as we open things up here in class number 2 of Pro-Am Unlimited Division. And we've got several riders still back there jockeying for position and ones to keep an eye on throughout this race. Mike Machado aboard the 61X. Brock Lyons also aboard the 743. Cody Miller, the number 22. And Clay Holmes, the number 7. Also keep an eye out for the 215 of Tommy Hager. And the number 21, as we said, of Mark Kendall, who is right now under pressure from the 727 of Cale Downen. And Downen will actually apply enough pressure to that number 21 machine of Kendall to tire him out and actually make the pass here in this moto of the Pro-Am Unlimited. Meanwhile, they continue to jockey back and forth back there in the number 3 spot. We've got Clay Holmes aboard the number 7 machine. Also in 4th place, 61X of Mike Machado. Cale Downen, though, takes over the lead aboard the number 727. Meanwhile, he is leaving in his dust that number 21 of Mark Kendall. Another rider that is going to be working his way up through the pack. The number 20 of Josh Upperman from Louisville, Ohio, going to be a force to be contended with here in this Pro-Am Unlimited class as we see this moto continue to wear on. Also, other riders to watch out for, as we said, the 61X of Mike Machado, Caleb Moore, the number 718, the Crum, Texas rider, though it looks like that rider having problems as the race wore on will actually fall off to about a 16th place position before it's all said and done. Caleb Moore, again, number 718. Finishing an 8th and a 17th for that overall 16th place position. As we take a look at our ITP Moose Racing results from Pro-Am Unlimited Racing, Josh Upperman ends up taking the overall win aboard the number 20. Cale Downen takes 2nd. Mike Machado will take the overall 3rd in this first round of racing. Class number 3, our Pro-Am production class, now getting set to head into that first turn of racing. We'll see a lot of the same riders we saw in our Unlimited division of the Pro-Am riders, but some changes here and there. And one of the changes that you don't see is Josh Upperman up front. This time he gets out to the front early on, but he's got the 21 of Mark Kendall, who started out strong in the Unlimited division and faded as the race went on. But right now it is the 20 of Josh Upperman and the 21 of Mark Kendall doing battle for the number 1 spot in the Pro-Am production class here in these first motos of racing at Glen Helen Raceway to open up this 2006 season. As you can see, Louisville, Ohio's Upperman still holds on to the lead. And the big question for that number 20 right now is whether or not his endurance will be able to hold up throughout these laps in this moto here of the Pro-Am production class. We know that he is from Ohio and has not been able to do as much riding as a lot of these other riders have been able to do. He and Mark Kendall actually sharing the same problem. Kendall from Alliance, Ohio, and Upperman from Louisville, Ohio. As we said, both in the Northeast, and both have not been able to ride much, so their conditioning is way, way down. So as they get the pressure applied to them as this race wears on, we could begin to see them start to fade here in the early part of the season. But as things are looking up here at the beginning of the season for these guys, look for them to stay looking up as the season wears on. And these two, as their endurance level starts to strengthen, we could see more and more of their battling taking place up front in these Pro-Am classes. Looks like the number 32 Yamaha of Matt White is now trying to sneak into the mix of things and take over that number 1 position away from the number 20 of Upperman. By the way, Matt White from Warren, PA, he too is probably suffering from some endurance problems, but you can't tell that by the way this young man is riding. Again, out of Warren, Pennsylvania, we've got our leader and we've got our winner. As he takes the win, Upperman will hold on to 2nd here in this moto. As we take a look at our ITP Moose Racing overall results, Matt White will take the overall win, Upperman will take 2nd, and Clay Holmes will be your overall 3rd place finisher. Class number 4, our 91 to 265 cc A division, our expert level of riders as we head down onto the racetrack. And into those first few turns, it looks like the number 28 of Joseph Bruning, along with the 49 of Matt Wienen, and also the 156 of Denton Boyer out of Punxsutawney, Pennsylvania, who has an absolutely splendid moto number 1, battling it out here early on. As you can see, Boyer back in that number 3 spot as we open up this first moto of action. But out front, all eyes are on 1, Chardon, Ohio's Joseph Bruning, another one of those Buckeye boys who doesn't have a whole lot of time to ride in the winter because of the weather conditions, but it looks like he's been doing what homework he can in the offseason because he's gotten off to a very strong start. Meanwhile, Bruning is trying to pull things away here, but behind him, Denton Boyer, the number 156 Yamaha, is doing battle with the second place rider. I believe that is Matt Wienen, the number 49 Honda pilot. Also, Dane Heilman aboard the number 07 machine from Richland, Indiana, part of the Motorsport Outlet team that Tim Farr put together for this 06 season. But up front, it becomes a battle to the checkers in that first moto with Denton Boyer, the 156, and the 28 of Joseph Bruning. As we can see here in the closing laps, how tight this battle is in this 91 to 265 CCA division. Backside of the race course and actually low side of the race course, and working our way back toward this finish line region, basically where the only jumps on the course are in this low-lying section. The rest of the track is pretty natural terrain with those big uphills and downhills. But at the checker flag, it will be Bruning taking the win in the second moto. After the first moto, it was Denton Boyer taking the win, but he did not start the second moto, so the overall win will go to the 28 of Bruning with a 2-1. Matt Wienen will take second, and the 888 of Ryan Sowers rounds out the top three. From the 265A to the 265B class, this is class number 5 set to hit the racetrack, and only 3 riders competing in our first round of racing. They are 2 East Coasters out of Geneva, Ohio, the number 11 of Chad Raymond and the number 86 of Nathan Kanan. He's out of Hamilton, Ohio, and 1 West Coast rider, a Yamaha pilot, number 17 of Jason Curtis. As we get things off and rolling, a pretty good battle ensuing, but it's Chad Raymond who takes both moto wins. They split them between Curtis and Cannon in the second and third place positions. In the overall, it is Jason Curtis in second and Nathan Cannon in third.
I'm here with Doug Morris, director of ATVA. Doug, so many exciting things are happening with ATV racing. What do you think is bringing all the fans to the races now?
Well, that's easy. Some of the most exciting racing in the world.
And what do you see for the future of ATV? More growth and bigger stars?
You know, I get asked that a lot. And a lot of people, I kind of trip them up with that, because I think really and truthfully this is just the beginning. I mean, there hasn't been that much ATV racing that's gotten any publicity over the years, but now that people have got to see it on TV and what have you, it's just going crazy.
Well, we're glad to be a part of the beginning. You guys added a couple more races this year. You went from 12 to 14. What was your strategy in doing that?
Well, kind of twofold. One of the biggest things is, if you only have 12 races, that means there's only 12 areas of the country where it's really convenient for everybody to come to. And it's very expensive and time-consuming to travel around to these races. So what we did is, by adding races, we opened up new territories where ATV racing was good and strong, and we knew there'd be support for it. And we added throwouts so that the people could go to the races that were just closer to them. And there's just such a demand for it, we wanted to meet the demand.
Do you think it'll continue to grow as far as number of races over the years?
Well, I'll tell you what, that's a very awkward question, because as this series, we could go to more and more races, but it's so expensive and time consuming for the riders. So at some point, we're gonna reach a maximum number. When we hit 12, we thought that was the max. When we hit 14, we're gonna see. We don't know if this is the magic number. We don't know if more races will work or if less races. We're in a growth stage.
Do you think there's going to be any breakout stars this year? Like John Natale was sort of a surprise last year.
Well, you know, some people did say John was a surprise, but I tell you what, he was kind of a sleeper. He worked hard, he trained, he got some good mechanics, and he's just plain fast. So actually, I think we do have some real young, up-and-coming stars. I think Pat Brown's one of the standouts. There's about 4 or 5 new up-and-coming stars that I'm real excited about. And we've even got some of, I hate to call them old-timers, but we've got some guys that used to race these things back in the 80s coming out and giving it a try. So you just really know where they're going to come from.
To the novice division of our 265cc riders, this is class number 6, 91 to 265 novice class riders. And as we open things up, the number 35 Yamaha pilot of Ron Nunley from Florence, Alabama, opens up with the early lead, but he's got company back there out of guys like the 130 of Clay Lachowski. Kearns Moore aboard the number 23X, the Yamaha number 7 of Todd Mackey, the 29 of Chris Rabier out of Las Vegas, Nevada. And tough break there for the 23X Yamaha rider of Kearns Moore from Sandy Valley, Nevada. More breathing room for this guy, though. Ron Nunley, the number 35 Yamaha pilot, again out of Alabama, takes a Moto 1 win and also is able to put it together for Moto number 2. We'll give him the overall as far as the results are concerned. As we take a look at the ITP Moose Racing overall results, Nunley does take the win. Brandon Welp in second, Sean Coffey in third. Class number 7 now, the Open A division, and here we only have 7 riders that have shown up. The biggest part of them coming from the East Coast, but one West Coaster from Salem, Oregon, the number 13 of Gray Ferrando, getting off to an early lead. And let me tell you, he had a battle of the century on his hands throughout that first moto. The number 96 Yamaha rider from Plant City, Florida, Kevin Kern, giving him all he could throughout this entire first moto of racing. But when it was all said and done, Ferrando did come out on top in Moto number 1. As we can see here, the only West Coaster basically in this Open A division, and he seems to be the man to beat out here in California. There he is, Gray Ferrando, number 13 from Salem, Oregon. He takes a 1-1 after battling with the 34 of Mike Wise, the 96 of Kevin Kern, the Cannondale rider, the number 71 of Brian Giles. But here's the way it all broke down when it was all said and done. Ferrando, Wise, Kern, Giles, and Deason. Open B, next up on our docket. It's class number 8, and only 5 riders trying their hand here in California for the opening round of this ATV National Motocross Series. And they're led out in Moto number 1 by the Yamaha rider from Moreno Valley, California, Larry Heidler. Also, the number 27 of Sean Houston is a Yamaha pilot from Moore Park, California. These two West Coasters trying to show these guys the fast way around, like Jeremy Meter, the number 77 from Star, Idaho, running in the number 4 spot to open things up. But he's not far off the pace of your leader, Heidler there, aboard the number 9 machine. He is actually kind of accustomed to these Southern California tracks, being from California himself, so he could be the one to beat here. Check out the battle, though, there for the second and third place positions, as we see the 44 of James Perry out of Adolphus, Kentucky, actually holding on to second, as Sean Houston, the number 27 from Moore Park, California, actually knocking on the door early in the moto. As the moto wears on, it looks like Sean will actually make the pass on James Perry as he falls off to a number 3 spot. Houston now in the hunt for the number 1 spot, away from that Yamaha pilot, number 9, Larry Heidler. As you can see him laying chase there, but there's a big gap that's opened up between first and second place, and Heidler appears that he is going to cruise to an easy victory here in the Open B division. Still down in the low-lying areas and a few turns to go in the Open B class, but as we work our way toward the checker flag, it looks like it's going to be Heidler going with a 1-1. Houston will finish in the overall second. James Perry will take the overall third. Then it's Jeremy Meter, the number 77 from Star, Idaho, taking fourth, and Hiram Burgess out of Boise, Idaho, rounding out the 5. High noon in California on Sunday as Pro Moto number 1 at Glen Helen Raceway is about to get underway. A good look at last year's last race winner, Joe Bird. And there's Tim Farr, the winner of the TT Series. And Digger Doug Gust also getting set to go. Let's find out exactly what these guys are feeling heading into this season.
You know, I'm not counting anybody out. Last year I was kind of the underdog and I came up and I won 7 out of 12 races. So you never know who's going to come up and give us a run this year.
The new LTR 450 Suzuki came out with is working really good, and I'm real excited for this year.
My bike's working really good. I'm really happy with it, and so I'm definitely going to have a good year.
I want to start this year like we finished last year. We finished last year real good, some top 5, 6 finishes at the end of the season, so we're looking to do that this weekend here.
It's going to come down to, it's a long season and consistency.
Hey folks, welcome to the starting line of Moto 1 at Glen Helen Raceway. The riders are ready, the engines are revving, and the fans are on the edge of their seat. Let the race begin.
And they're off here to kick off the 2006 ITP Moose Racing ATVA National Motocross Series, presented to you by Parts Unlimited, as they make their way through that ITP Talladega first turn here at Glen Helen Raceway. Things beginning to sort out just a little bit as our top 20 pro riders are making their way now up the first uphill section around the top of that one, and now heading back down. Looks like Joe Bird's going to open up with a third, but check this out. The rider that a lot of folks are expecting to be the champion this year, the number 2 of Jeremiah Jones, finding himself in a first lap catastrophe situation as he is dead in the water at the top of that first hill. Now up the big hill, Mount St. Helens, as you can see him rounding the top and making their way back down. They're jockeying for position up front there. Natali, Gust, Little, Havistow, Tavis Kane, all the boys going at it, wheel-to-wheel racing action. But John Natali, he is your early leader aboard that number 13 machine. He has plenty of company back there, including the number 12 of Keith Little and that number 7 of Joe Bird here on this opening lap of racing here at Glen Helen Raceway. Looks like Natali may be shutting the mouths of a lot of doubters out there that doubted whether or not Natali was going to be able to bounce back and be as strong as he was in the 2005 season. Well, I tell you, starting out here in 2006, early on in lap number 1, he looks like he's going to be the man to beat, as Jeremiah Jones is all the way back into a 19th place position after that first lap fiasco. The 53 of Corey Ellis, the inaugural winner of the Glen Helen ATVA Nationals here only a few short years ago, finds himself down in the turn and's got a lot of ground to make up here in Moto number 1. But up front, it is still Natali aboard the number 13. He is your leader. Back in the number 2 spot, and check this out, it looks like another Honda. Actually, top 3 riders are Hondas to kick off this first race of the 2006 season, and they do include John Natali, Joe Bird, and Keith Little aboard that number 12. Little actually running in the number 2 spot with Joe Bird all over his rear wheels in and out of those turns at the bottom of that Maxxis uphill and downhill section. Now heading up towards Mount St. Helens. There goes the number 12 now trying to lay chase to number 13 in Natali. That is Keith Little in second. Bird still back in third. Downside of Mount St. Helens now, you can see a lot of dust flying and a lot of braking bumps beginning to develop near the bottom of that section. It could be a factor as this race wears on. Back a little further in the pack, they continue to battle. Doug Gus trying to work his way up through the pack right now, running back in about a 4th place position here on lap number 2. But it's the number 13 and Natali, the champ, the Iron Man, who again is shutting the mouth of a lot of those naysayers who said Natali wouldn't be able to back it up. But again, we still got a long way to go. This is only lap number 2 of the first race of the 2006 season. This is the 2006 ITP Moose Racing ATVA National Motocross Series, presented to you by Parts Unlimited. There's that battle for second, still between the number 12 of Keith Little and the number 7 of Joe Bird. Again, it's a 3 Honda shootout up front early on in this race, and believe it or not, it has been since the mid-1980s since we have seen 3 Honda riders take a podium in a race, and we'll see whether or not they'll be able to hang on to it as we check in with our leaderboard to let you know how things are breaking down. Natali, Little, Bird, Gust, and Lawson first through 5th with 2 laps complete here as we take a look at our Parts Unlimited leaderboard here at Glen Helen Raceway. Back in the 6th place battle, we've got 3 riders going at it right now. It is the number 8 of Jason Luberg from Zanesville, Ohio, the number 6 Honda rider out of McKinleyville, California, Tavis Kane, and also the number 52 of Dana Creets from Eureka, California. Though here's the battle for 2nd place. We saw there still Bird and Little going at it. Little in the number 2 spot and Bird in 3rd. John Natali, the number 13, still holding on to a substantial lead. And you know, folks, not only is this lead a lap number 3, but look at the gap that is beginning to open up as the battling continues and wages on back there in that number 2 spot. John Natali getting off to a great start. And of course, before the start of the race today, Susie Meister had a chance to talk with him.
And I feel really good, so I think that, you know, we're going to have a really good shot at it this weekend, and a lot of stiff competition out here, but I think we got it dialed in.
You think you have a target on your back because you're the reigning champ?
Yeah, you know, I definitely got that target on my back. I've been having a hard time sleeping lately the last few weeks. It's a lot different than last year. Last year it was, you know, if I won, it was awesome, you know, because I was the underdog. But if I didn't, it was kind of expected for me, you know, not to win. So this year it's kind of, it's expected of me to win. And now all I got to do is go out and do my job. And I think we got a good chance this weekend.
He may have a big target on his back, but it's going to be a hard target to hit if he continues to open up with these kind of leads here in the 2006 season. John Natale, the Ironman, could be the one to beat again here in 06. We'll just have to wait and see as we're in that washed out section. Look how rough that section of the racetrack is as the battle for second wages on, and they make their way through that section of the race course. It is still Little, it is still Bird, and we still have a 1-2-3 podium run right now for the men in red. The Honda riders are out front. Something else to point out about our Honda riders, the top 5 of those, 4 of them are Hondas. 1 Suzuki rider, Doug Gust, running in the number 4 spot right now aboard that number 55, that all-new LTR 450 quad racer. And his teammate, Jeremiah Jones, who got off to a decent start but punted all the way to the back of the pack, has worked his way into a number 15 spot at this point in the race. Though John Natale, the man with the target on his back, is out front. Keith Little running in the number 2 spot with Joe Bird all over his back tires. And speaking of Bird, Susie Meister talked with him before the race.
Well, this is only the beginning, but you're coming off a great win at Loretta, so how are you feeling? You going to keep it rolling?
Yeah, we had a good off-season. Things are going well. All the sponsors are behind us again, so get a good start, have a little luck behind us, we'll do good.
Joe Bird, I'm sure, will do very well here today, at least in his first moto, as he and Little still battling for that number 2 spot. Whether or not he'll be able to actually take the win here to open up the season still remains to be a big question of the day, but we're still early on in moto number 1. But he's going to have to chase down that man right there, the number 13 of John Natale, who seems to be unstoppable at this point in this first moto. Back in the number 4 spot, it's Doug Gust aboard the number 55, and Susie Meister had a chance to talk with him earlier.
Tell me, can you taste the number 1 spot?
Oh yeah, I can, and I'm hungry for it this year. So.
Is this your year?
This is my year. Oh, there's a lot of good guys out there this year. You got my teammate Jeremiah Jones, you got Joe Bird, Tim Farr, John Natale, Corey Ellis. I mean, there's so many fast guys out there right now. So hey, it's going to be tough, but I'm glad we got the new quad, and I'm feeling good. So we'll see what happens.
Well, if Doug Gust is hungry for a championship, he has got to be starving right now back in that number 4 spot. But don't count him out just yet. He is still well within striking distance of an overall podium, and quite possibly, if things go well in the second moto, even the win. Right now, the man set to win this one, at least in moto number 1, is that number 13 of John Natale, as he's got off to a blistering fast pace. And you can see he is searching for smoother lines around this race course. And look exactly how rough this track has gotten since earlier motos on this Sunday morning of racing. It has gotten extremely rough as we are here in moto number 1. The battle for second still on. The number 12 of Keith Little and the number 7 of Joe Bird as they continue to go at it wheel to wheel, sometimes in and out of these turns right now. Oh, Joe Bird making a little bit of a mistake, and that might be the reason we don't see him wheel to wheel. And just a little bit of a mistake like this right here in our ITP replay, you see why maybe the gap is starting to open up between second and third. But we know that Joe Bird will be able to put his nose down to the grindstone and try to whittle away back that gap that is starting to open up between second and third place. Meanwhile, Little is more concerned, I believe, with the gap that is opening up between himself and the number 1 ride of John Natale, who's riding that number 13 Honda. But again, as we mentioned the word Honda, we must remind you that we may be looking at history in the making. At least in his first moto, we're going to have 3 Hondas, if they continue to hold their own like they are right now, on the podium for the finish of moto number 1. Again, an overall has not been taken or swept by Honda since the 1980s, back in the heyday of actually 3-wheeler racing. That was before the 4-wheelers ever came along, since we've seen a 3 Honda podium sweep. But we'll see if that continues to be the case as the day wears on. We're about halfway through, actually a little past the halfway point of moto number 1, and John Natale continues to stretch it out as we watch this rider take every line that he can on this racetrack. He's basically searching for lines, I believe, for the second moto in case something would come up that he might have to make some passes a little later on. But John is obviously having a lot of fun out here in the first moto at Glen Helen Raceway to open up this 2006 season. Checking back to second place, it's still the number 12 of Little and still Bird back in the third. There's Little now out of Russellville, Alabama, currently second place. Joe Bird still back in the number 3 spot, and it looks like the battle for second place has subsided just a bit as Bird no longer applying pressure to the number 12 Honda machine, who is in second place. There you see Bird not very far behind, but the gap between first and second is really beginning to open up quite a bit as Natale into that whoop section and seems to be out there riding his own race under no pressure whatsoever, not forcing himself into any of these turns or over any of these jumps. Taking a look now at the Parts Unlimited leaderboard, it is Natale, Keith Little, Joe Bird, Doug Gust, and Jeremy Lawson just past the halfway point. Let's check in with Susie Meister.
Thanks, Rodney. We're about halfway through the first moto, and things are really exciting. John Natale got the whole shot, and he made an incredible lead. Second place is a fight between Keith Little and Joe Bird. Jeremiah Jones, however, moved to the back after a little mishap. We'll see what happens. Back to you, Rodney.
Little mishap, I believe, Susie, might be an understatement there for the number 2 of Jeremiah Jones, the favored heading into this first round of racing. He is all the way back in a 15th place position right now. Let's check in with Tim Farr, who seems to be having troubles of his own.
No, I'm trying to get back in shape here. I had, a small surgery last year at the end of the year, and just trying to get back with the bike and, get back in the groove.
Are you feeling good about it?
Pretty good, yeah. Still a little bit sore, a little bit tight, but, definitely improving.
Last year you were the winner here at Glen Helen. Are you thinking this is going to be a repeat performance?
I'm going to give it my best, you never really know. There's always new up-and-coming guys, and even everybody I've raced for years are just incredible athletes. So, I'm going to do what I can.
Tim Farr has been doing what he can for a long, long time as he's been racing this series for many, many years, since at least in the mid to early 1990s, and got riders like this guy right here, the number 13 of John Natale, actually looking up to Tim Farr, and also Joe Bird, and even Keith Little looking up to Joe Bird and Tim Farr, and even John Natale, your champion. But Little at the same time is also hoping that he's going to be able to dethrone the Ironman. Look at your screen there, just past the finish line region. You see a couple of Yamahas and a Honda. Looks like both Pat Brown and Travis Spader are out of the race, and Dustin Wimmer aboard the number 191. Lap number 7 now, just a couple of laps to go here in this first moto of racing to open up this 2006 ATVA National Motocross season. And John Natale again still feeling no pressure. Still Keith Little in second. Looks like the gap is starting to close a little bit again between second and third. So Bird may be actually trying to mount some sort of a challenge here late in the race as he is expecting to see a white flag within the next lap or so of racing. So Bird could rise back to the occasion and mount the challenge. Also, don't count out Tavis Kane back there running in that number 7 spot. He and Luberg aboard the number 8 Yamaha have a major battle going on right there, as well as the number 52 of Dana Creech, who is also in the mix of that battle for the 6th place position. And all the 3 of those riders are trying to reel in that 5th place ride of Lawson to try to break into a top 5 here in moto number 1. Less than 2 laps to go now to get it all done in, as John Natale is now nearing the finish line. I believe this is the white flag lap, if I'm not mistaken. So a lap to go for Natale and his first moto win of the 2006 racing season. Will he be able to hang on to it? We'll just have to wait and see, and we'll find out at the conclusion of this lap whether or not John Natale is going to be able to lead this one all the way home for a first moto win. Looking back behind him, does not see any competition whatsoever. You can tell that he is very relaxed heading into this last lap. So this could spell the storyline for the 2006 season. John Natale going to be the man to beat. Keith Little back in second. He's also been a big surprise here in the start of this 2006 season. Could Keith Little be the sleeper that no one was counting on? Battle for 11th place now between Dunkelberger and White, the number 32. This is one of the more heated battles heading into this last lap of racing. And that number 13 basically taking a victory lap here at Glen Helen Raceway as he steps up and out of sight for just a moment into another turn they call Little Talladega over there, as there's 2 high-speed turns. There's the number 12 of Keith Little still in second, and still in third, Joe Bird, and that gap is not opening up any whatsoever between second and third place. Again, Natale uncontested on his victory lap here as he heads toward the checkers, and we get a good look at the champ, the Ironman, John Natale, and a preview as to what this season could be all about. Will John Natale be able to hold on to his championship ways throughout the entire season? This is only the first moto of the first race of the season. John Natale has got a long road to hoe, but it looks like he is starting out in a very good pace as he is into the closing turns on a very rough and rugged Glen Helen Raceway racetrack. And at the checkers, it will be the Ironman, John Natale, taking the first moto win of the 06 season. And behind him, the number 12 of Keith Little opens up with a second place finish, and the number 7 of Joe Bird with a third. Let's head on down to the winner's circle where Susie Meister is standing by with our winner.
Hey, John, you got the whole shot and you kept the lead the whole time. How are you feeling?
I'm feeling great. I was nervous coming up this weekend, and anytime the first race of the year, you always get nervous trying to, scope out the competition and stuff. And everybody out here is real tough. Suzuki and the guys come up with a better program this year, and they're going to be tough all year. I'm feeling great. I felt really smooth, and the bike worked great. So hopefully the next moto I can get another hole shot. It makes my job a lot easier.
Taking a look now at Moto 1 results. Brought to you by Moose Racing. It was Natale, Little, Bird, Gust, and Lawson round out the top 5. Then Luberg, Tavis Kane, Dana Creech, Joe Havistow, and Corey Ellis to round out the top 10. Susie Meister standing by down in the winner's circle once more with Keith Little and Joe Bird.
Keith Little, that was amazing. You and Joe Bird were sort of fighting it out for a while. How did you get the lead?
Well, I came out second, and I was just right ahead of Joe, and we battled for, a couple laps, 2 or 3 laps. And then I felt like I was able to start inching away from him. I kind of got smooth and found my lines out there, and I felt pretty good.
What's your strategy for the second moto?
I want to get that hole shot. That's pretty important here to get a good start. The track, it's a little hard to pass on, and Natale, when he gets out front, he's gone. So, my strategy for the second moto is to pull the hole shot and just ride like I did then.
Does the wind affect your racing at all?
Oh yeah, we're all riding, a little bit on edge. Sometimes when you come off these jumps, the wind will catch you and it'll try turning you sideways. We had to, everybody has to deal with it, but it's just one of those things that, it's the same for everybody.
I'm here with Joe Bird, who got 3rd place in the first moto. Congratulations. I saw you battling it out with Keith Little for a while. What was going on there?
We just testing each other out, see who had what. We had a good moto, and towards the end of the moto, I got tired of eating the roost, so we'll try harder next second moto and see if we can beat him next time.
What do you think about Team Honda sort of taking all 3 spots in the first moto?
Well, they stepped in big this year, started sponsoring a lot of guys, and we've been doing it for a long time. All of us have waited for this our whole lives, so I'm just proud for Honda that we were 1, 2, 3, and we'll try to do it again next moto.
And what's your strategy for moto number 2?
Try to win.
Well, we wish you the best of luck. We'll see you out there.
Thank you.
From the pro riders to the novice riders, we head now as we are into class number 9, the Open C, as we head down onto the racetrack. 7 riders vying for these top spots here in this first round of racing, and amazingly, basically all the riders that you see in this class are all from the West Coast or the Western United States. We've got Tony Hinkle out of Oregon, Justin Carroll out of Colorado, Nick Becky out of California, out of Arizona, Rob Baumsteiger out of Texas, Hunter Barton, and Jim Jones out of Woodland, Washington. As we check in with the action, Justin Carroll aboard that number 812 machine, actually opening up to a pretty good start there. He's in the number 2 spot behind Tony Hinkle, the number 61 machine. Again, Hinkle out of Oregon City, Oregon, and he's here to make a name for himself in National ATVA racing, and it looks like he is doing just that as a novice class rider. Also in the hunt back there in about the 3rd place position, Hunter Barton aboard the number 05 machine, as we see him here in the attack mode as he is trying to close in the gap between he and the 812 of Justin Carroll, who is running 2nd, and Tony Hinkle, who is your leader. But when it's all said and done, after the dust all settles here at Glen Helen Raceway, it looks like Tony Hinkle will take the overall win. Justin Carroll in 2nd, Nick Becky in 3rd, 4th place Rob Baumsteiger, and Hunter Barton rounding out the top 5. 4-stroke A, class number 10. Next up on the race docket here from Glen Helen Raceway, as the gate drops, 30 riders in all in 2 different divisions, trying to narrow it down to the top 20 when it's all said and done. And it looks like Jeffrey Spooner, the number 56X out of Phoenix, Arizona, grabs the early lead. However, he's got plenty of company back there out of the number 70 of Brandon Smith out of South Jordan, Utah, another Northwesterner coming down to Southern California to try his hand in ATVA racing. Back in Division number 2, the 329, John Schaaf from Morena, Arizona, holding on to the early lead as he's got company back there. And it looks like the company and pressure that is being applied to him is by that number 97 of Nate Walsh, all the way from Live Oak, Florida. And there you see it, Brandon Smith now back on the rear wheel in Division number 1 of Jeffrey Spooner. And actually, as we head from Division 1 to Division 2 into Moto number 2, it becomes a battle up front when it's all said and done between Spooner and Brandon Smith as we head for the checkers in our final moto, the second moto on Sunday afternoon. John Schaaf running back in the number 3 spot aboard the number 329, the 84 of Tom Brown out of Sanger, Texas. And in 5th place, also Cannondale rider Daniel Donnan out of Walsh, Texas. As you can see, a lot of battling taking place throughout this entire 30-man field of the 4-stroke A riders. But when it's all said and done here at Glen Helen Raceway, it looks like the folks from the West Coast seem to be faring the best here as we take a look at those overall results from class number 10, the 4-stroke A. Honda rider number 56X from Phoenix, Arizona. Jeffrey Spooner will take the win with a 1-1. Brandon Smith with a 2-2 takes second. Jonathan Schaaf takes a 1-3 for an overall third. Tom Brown in 4th, and rounding out the top 5, Daniel Donnan. On to the 4-stroke B class now. This is class number 11 with a total of 27 riders vying for the number 1 spot here in California in this 4-stroke B division as we head into that turn number 1. Talladega turn is what we're calling that. The ITP banners you see stretched out there. Again, a very high bank turn. These riders can actually hit that first turn with a full fist of throttle and not have to be worried about it. As we head through the first few seconds, looks like Shane Owens, number 1 Yamaha rider out of El Dorado, Kansas, getting off to a strong start here, but is not going to be able to hang on to it as the 36 Yamaha rider of Oliver Sansom out of Little Easton, United Kingdom over in England has taken over the lead in his division. There are 2 different divisions out here again in this first moto, but as the second motos wear on, that's when we put the top 20 together. But this time out, it is Sansom out front aboard that number 36 Yamaha. Also Dennis Capagni out of Chino, California aboard the number 8 Yamaha, leading in his division number 1, the number 111 Honda rider Matt Bremer. He's out of Palm Bay, Florida, also out front, and one of the fast guys, I guess you could say, here in this 4-stroke B class in the first moto of Divisions 1 and Division 2. But as the racing wears on, the number 8 Yamaha of Dennis Capagni out of Chino, California moves out to the lead. And Capagni actually getting a little bit out of shape as he busts the berm there, but still holds on to the number 1 spot. Meanwhile, behind him, the battling wages on with the 111 of Matt Bremer having the challenges applied to him. And those challenges are soon met with a major defense, and Bremer is going to walk away with that second place finish. Here's the way the overall results are. Capagni out front, Bremer in second, Matt Butler in third, and Oliver Sansom, our English rider, in the 4th place spot. Our next stop, 4-stroke C. It's class number 12 on a race docket, and as we check in, we've got riders like Stefan Murphy from the Oxford in the United Kingdom trying to chase down guys like this. The number 2 of David Reagan out of Murrieta, California. Behind Reagan is the number 14 of Scott Cahill. One thing to point out about Reagan being from Murrieta, California in the C class, it's kind of a parallel with Jeremy McGrath on the 2-wheel side of things, as Jeremy actually started out in a 2-wheel class in the novice class and won a national championship there. We'll just have to keep our eyes on that number 2 Yamaha and see if he'll be able to achieve such greatness as Jeremy McGrath. But this is David Reagan, Murrieta, California, now being challenged by that number 14 machine of Scott Cahill, the Honda rider out of Las Vegas, Nevada. Also number 7 of Keith Tebow out of Corona, California, running a strong race in Moto number 1, actually working his way all the way up into a second place position. But right now we're watching the battle break down for the second Moto win between David Reagan and Scott Cahill. And as we headed past the finish line, and the checker flag is out for our 4-stroke seat, class number 12. This is the way things turned out in our ITP Moose Racing results board. Scott Cahill gets the overall win. David Reagan in second. Justin Bradstreet, who finished with 2 fifth-place finishes, takes a third-place position. Production A, class number 13 with 4 divisions and 42 riders trying to man a 20-man gate. As we kick off the first division, Casey Thompson aboard the number 57 from Buford, Georgia, gets an early lead. Behind him, Walter Baum from Live Oak, Florida, aboard that number 00. These riders will continue to battle throughout this entire first moto in this first division of riders. As we'll check back here in just a moment with a couple of other divisions. Check out the great battling going on for that third place position back there, as it is only 4 riders that actually get to transfer into the second moto from these divisions. Lance Hallworth from Emmett, Idaho, running a strong lead in Moto number 1 and Division number 2. Casey Thompson, the number 57, still leading that first division of riders out there, as we are looking at some major mix-ups whenever we head to Moto number 2 in this Production A class. As we said, we have 4 different divisions. There's Eric Noble aboard the number 25 machine. Noble actually finishing just outside of a qualifying position, believe it or not. He's from Green Bay, Wisconsin. Passing on the outside, the 84 machine of Thomas Brown from Sanger, Texas, who will actually take a third-place position in his division race in Moto number 1. Hunter Johnson, number 357, as we head to our results board now. Casey Martin, though, from Frenchburg, Kentucky, ends up taking the overall win with a second-place finish in his division and a first-place finish in Moto number 2. Then it was Gauthier and Cody Grant rounding out the top 3.
I got started racing when I was, I think I was about 4 years old, and I was actually on an ATC Honda 3-wheeler, and my parents took me out and got me on the track, and I quit for a while, and I started riding in the woods a lot, which is, something that I was really happy and proud about, because it kept me out of a lot of trouble as a younger kid. And my very first quad was a Yamaha Warrior, and I kind of tore it apart. It didn't last long. The one thing I can remember was my very first race. I was doing really well. I think I was in second place and crashed really hard. And I guess from then on, I was hooked. I want my fans to think of me as the racer that kind of brought the sport into the next mainstream and set precedents for the kids to follow. And I want to be a really good role model. I've seen a lot of athletes and movie stars that just don't set the kind of the image that you want your kids to see growing up. And I want to be kind of what I kind of coined it, and I guess The Rock said it best. I want to be the people's champion. I want to be here for everybody that's here and everybody that's watching on TV, and I want to be the guy that you can come up to at the race and joke and have fun with. And I never want to have the star status. I want to be just John. I just want to be the guy that goes out and last night we were playing hacky sack with the kids over there, and I just want to be me. On the track I'm a racer. Off the track I'm just like everybody else. I want to win as many championships as I can and retire as a champion.
Class number 14 now, it's Production B, and we had about 30 riders trying to vie for the top 20 spots out here at Glen Helen in round number 1. Matt Bremer, though, in his division race is able to pull an early lead from Palm Bay, Florida. Also a battle ensuing, it looks like, with the number 6 Yamaha of Chris Bowen out of Land O'Lakes, Florida. Keep an eye out also for the 51 Honda of Matt Butler out of Virginia, as well as the number 8 Yamaha of Dennis Capagni out of Chino, California, and the 79 Yamaha of Justin Noss from Apple Valley, California, all riding very strong races in the early going of this Production B class number 14. As we said, we had a couple different divisions that we had to whittle it down into the top 20 riders overall. This was the best race in this class all weekend long. It's Production B, class number 14. This is Moto number 1 on Saturday. It is Matt Bremer fending off the number 6 Yamaha of Chris Bowen. Again, both of these riders are Floridians, and check this out. They probably are no stranger to each other's competition either, as we see some riders having problems out there getting a toe off the race course. Meanwhile, Chris Bowen has moved into the number 1 spot, and when it's all said and done, Bowen gets the moto win, but Bremer will win the overall as he will take the win in moto number 2. Let's take a look at those results, and it is Bremer with the win, Chris Bowen in second, Matt Butler in third. Two more divisions, production C riders, 27 of them heading into that first Talladega turn here at Glen Helen Raceway. In division number 1, it's Greg Bullen aboard the number 64 from Cathedral City, California, grabbing the early lead. He has a great battle going on there with the 39 Honda rider. That's Brent Henneman. He's out of McKinney, Texas. Also, Mike Hosman out of Middleton, Idaho, the number 74 rider, running in a third-place position here in Division number 1. As you see, these riders all jockeying for position, that top 4 spot, trying to ensure themselves a start on the gate in Moto number 2. But again, the battle is up front between the 64 of Greg Bullen and the number 39 of Brent Henneman. Some riders getting together there. One of those, the number 9 of Javier Rios from San Diego, California. They'll get off and rolling. Javier, though, having some tough ways to get restarted there. So we check in with division number 2, 838 of Brian McCulloch out of Beaumont, California, riding one of those new LTR 450 quad racers that was just released. He's actually a part of the media circus down here at San Bernardino's Glen Helen Raceway. He gets off to a great lead in division race number 2, moto number 1. It looks like he, for the most part, runs the entire moto uncontested from any of the riders out there. But Cody Irving, the number 24, we know that he's back there. He's out of Oregon City, Oregon, and we'll be watching for, of course, things to go better for Cody in moto number 2. But right now in this division 2, the 838 and this LT R450 quad racer feeling no pressures. We check back a little further in the pack there. This is the battle for 4th place. We see the number 47 Honda of Brandon Lamy out of Riverside, California, and the 321 Yamaha of Daniel Lewandowski from Prescott, Arizona, as they've got some great battling going on here. But as we make our way back through the pack just a little bit more, there's a 76 of Jason Scoville, who will finish in a top qualifying position in moto number 1, has his problems in moto 2. Another rider that finishes in a top qualifying position is that number 2 of David Reagan out of Murrieta, California, actually finishing 3rd place in his division in moto 1, but gets a DNF in moto 2. And here's the way the results all break down here. McCulloch gets the overall win aboard the 838. Greg Bullen aboard the 64 in second, and Brent Henneman aboard the number 39 will round out the top 3. Class number 16, what we call the 16 to 24-year-olds or the college boys, set to tackle that first turn. And as they come out of that first turn, here's the way things begin to break down. Early on, TJ Dietrich aboard the number 55X from Henderson, Nevada. Got company with the 371 of Corey Gaither out of Pulaski, Wisconsin. Also the 123 of Nick Noble out of Green Bay, Wisconsin. Liam Cater out of Somerset, Great Britain, believe it or not. More international flavor here in this 16 to 24-year-old class. But TJ Dietrich takes it all the way home in moto number 1 aboard the 55X. Comes back with a 9th place finish in moto number 2, which drops him to like 5th place overall in the standings. As we take a look at that, Corey Gaither taking the win. It's the plus 25, class number 17, 25 years of age and older now. As we take a look at the 7-man field, it looks like early on, Dane Heilman from Richland, Indiana, again, a part of that motorsport outlet team that Tim Farr has put together out front and seems to be the man to beat here early on in Moto number 1. Back there in the number 2 spot, that's a Suzuki pilot from Maline, Alabama, Britt Mansell. Mansell is in the hunt and keeping a very close check on the 07 of Heilman as this moto wears on. And this is pretty much the battle that we see throughout the entire moto. Behind them in the 3rd and 4th place positions, the 24 of Cody Roberts. Roberts on a Honda from Moore Park, California. And 4th place ride, the 03 of Tony Baxter, a Honda rider from Taft, California. And right behind them, a couple positions back in 6th place, is the 71 Honda of Stan Digby. He's all the way from Fulton, Mississippi, trying to work his way back up through the pack. Stan actually running a little stronger than a 6th place early on in the moto, but later on in the moto, Britt Mansell is finally able to move into the number 1 spot. He'll take the moto win in Moto number 1 and actually will settle for a 2nd moto win as well. And Britt Mansell will take the win in the plus 25 class number 17 here in the opening round of this 2006 ITP Moose Racing ATVA National Motocross Series presented to you by Parts Unlimited. We'll take a look at those results now. In Moto 1 to Moto number 2, actually deja vu. They finished up the exact same way, both motos. So Mansell gets the overall, Heilman in 2nd, and Cody Roberts rounds out the top 3. It's 30 plus now, our vet class here at Glen Helen Raceway as we check in with 23 riders. When we start things out, we have 2 different divisions, and Mark Holtz grabs the early lead in division number 1 aboard that number 12 Honda from Linden, Washington. He's got company back there as it looks like that number 6 Honda rider Michael Caffro from Carlsbad, California, also knocking on the door and trying to be a spoiler in Holtz's moto win. Some of the other riders to keep an eye out for here, the number 96 Yamaha of Kevin Kern from Plant City, Florida. Also the 612 Honda of Tyler Earnhardt. He's out of Bellingham, Washington. And another rider to keep an eye on, the number 71 of Brian Giles from Maplesville, Alabama, running a strong 3rd place position in division number 2. But it's all Mark Holtz up front aboard the number 12, and actually it'll be that way for both motos. He does that in his division race, and when they come out for moto number 2, Mark Holtz, the number 12 Linden, Washington native, actually taking a 1-1 in the overall win, with the number 6 of Michael Caffro from Carlsbad, California, able to score a 2-2. Kevin Kern goes 3rd with a 2-3 as we take a look at those Moose Racing Vet Plus 30 results. It's Holtz, Caffro, and Kern 1, 2, and 3.
Well, we're here at the starting line for Moto number 2, where we're about to find out if John Natale can sweep both motos for a win, or whether Joe Bird or Keith Little will edge him out for the title. Keep your eye on Jeremiah Jones, too. We'll see if he can recover from the disastrous first moto.
Down on the starting line for the start of Moto number 2, heading head first into Talladega turn number 1, the ITP first turn. And check out the speed these riders are carrying through that first turn. And check this out. It is John Natale and Joe Bird wheel to wheel, side by side, coming out of those first few turns. And it looks like Joe Bird is going to take over the early lead with the number 13 of John Natale back in 2nd. And now look who's opening up in the 3rd place position. It's the number 2 of Jeremiah Jones. We may be seeing something here in Moto number 2 that we didn't get the opportunity to see in Moto number 1 because of the misfortunes of the Suzuki rider. We've got a 3-man battle beginning to break away already, and this is only lap number 1 here in Moto number 2. Down off Mount St. Helens, here comes Joe Bird, your early leader from Union City, Tennessee. He took a 3rd in Moto number 1. 2nd place rider, your winner of Moto number 1, the 13 of John Natale, but here comes the number 2 of Jeremiah Jones as they head into Little Talladega now. No changes as, again, they're beginning their breakaway. 1, 2, and 3. These riders could be the only 3 riders in the showdown to the checker flag in this 20-minute plus 1-lap moto. It is hard to believe that this is just the first lap of this intense race that we're about to witness, with Bird out front, Natale in 2nd, Jones in third aboard the number 2. And then back there in the fourth place position, the number 12 of Keith Little. And check that out, the 55 of Digger Doug Gus just outside the top 5 as we near the completion of lap number 1 here in Moto number 2. Tough break for some of those Yamaha pilots like Pat Brown and Travis Spader, who found themselves dead in the water about midway through Moto number 1. They're trying to redeem themselves here in this second Moto. We'll see if they're able to do it. We've got a battle for the lead now breaking down. It is the number 7 of Bird being challenged by the number 13 of John Natale, and all the while their favorite fan and spectator back there in third place, the number 2 of Jeremiah Jones, is watching it all unfold. Again, look how rough the racetrack is here in this second Moto of racing. We thought it was rough in Moto 1. It is that much rougher here in Moto number 2. Still not able to get around. Natale is back in the number 2 spot, laying chase still to the number 7 of Joe Bird as our jockeying for position continues. There comes the 199 of Pat Brown trying to work his way up through the pack right now. And look behind the number 13 of Natale now. That looks like Jeremiah Jones is still well within the hunt, and he may be trying to sneak up to put a wheel in on both of these riders, the 13 and the 7, and maybe trying to make a double pass on these riders. We'll just have to wait and see. As they say, time tells all stories, and we've got a heck of a story to be told here as we are up that first uphill section. Again, it doesn't look that challenging on the TV screen, but let me tell you folks, this is some very steep terrain out here, and as we make this hard left-hand turn and make the flight to the top of the hill, this is about a 500-foot run of about 300 feet of elevation change. It's about 300 feet straight to the top of that hill and only about 500 feet of actual track surface to get it done, and a lot of horsepower soaked out of those machines. There's Matt White, the number 32, who did so well in the qualifying races on Saturday, but struggling, it appears, here in the second Moto of the pro race on Sunday. He did quite well, it looked like, in Moto number 1, but this is going to take him way back. Look at this. Looks like the 13 did make the pass. He did it so subtly that you hardly didn't even notice him get around the number 7 of Joe Bird at the bottom of that hill. Now it is all John Natale, and again, the questions, will anybody be able to dethrone this man as he is beginning to open up a little bit of a lead? And we see that battle from first place transition now into the battle for second, now between Joe Bird and Jeremiah Jones. Jones just trying to stake some sort of a claim after that horrible first Moto where he finished 14th place position after being punted at the top of the first uphill section in Moto number 1 on lap number 1. But here in Moto number 2, lap number 2, he is on the gas and challenging Bird for the second place position. If nothing else, a ride for pride for that Suzuki pilot. Jeremiah Jones back in third, trying to chase down the number 13 of Natale, but first he's got to get through that number 7 of Joe Bird. The battling continuing behind them now, and it looks like another Suzuki just outside the top 5. Let's take a look at that Parts Unlimited leaderboard. It is Natale after 2 laps, Bird in second, Jeremiah Jones in third, Keith Little in fourth, and Joe Havistow in fifth. But right on the rear wheels of Joe Havistow is the 55 of Digger Doug Gus, trying to break into the top 5 and maybe reel in his racing compadre there, the number 2 of Jeremiah Jones, who's in a heated battle now for that number 2 spot here on lap number 3 of our race. Will he be able to get around Bird as we see him going nearly wheel to wheel coming out of that turn up that first uphill section? And look how rough that section of the racetrack has gotten. Looks like a virtual whoop field going uphill. And look how tight this battle is for second and third. And believe it or not, they're not far off the pace right now of the number 13 of John Natale. So if the number 2 of Jones can get around Bird, he is still well within striking distance of John Natale, Moto number 1 winner. That might not do so great for Jeremiah Jones's overall. He might not be able to take the overall win, but he will be able to take home the overall bragging rights for Moto number 2 as the battle for second wages on, coming down that big downhill section into Little Talladega. Joe Bird still in second, Jeremiah Jones still in third, and watch Jones search for the lines now. He is looking for the lines, and look how rough that section of the racetrack is. Very big acceleration bumps coming out of Little Talladega as we are now in the low line section of this race course into the sand pit, if you will, a washout of this race course. Big boulders almost boulder-sized rocks that protrude out of this section of this race course. You can't see them so much on the camera right now, but as that race wears on and as the track develops and gets rougher and rougher, there are more and more rocks that are dug up through that washout section of the race course. Now, as we near the completion of yet another lap, looks like Joe Bird is going to be able to hold on to that number 2 spot. Meanwhile, Jeremiah Jones is going from side to side looking for a fast line. Here comes John Natale, your leader, at the end of that 3rd lap of racing. He is still the man to beat. There goes Bird, there goes Jones, and the gap is beginning to open between 3rd and 4th. Keith Little still back in 4th place. Havaso still in 5th, and check it out, Digger Doug Gust is right on the rear wheel of both of those guys. Havaso has definitely got his hands full to try to fend off the former champion, Doug Gust. John Natale now, your current champion, out front and has no one to fend off at this point as Bird and Jones go at it for the number 2 spot. That is giving Natale all the breathing room he is looking for in this second moto of racing, and it looks like he may be on his way home to a second moto win and setting the standard quite possibly for this 06 season, and that could spell disaster for a lot of riders out there. But again, you got to remember, this is the first race of the season. Jeremiah Jones had a horrible first moto after being punted at the top of that first uphill section and falling all the way back to 19th place position, trying to fire it back up and move all the way up into a 14th place position before it was all said and done. Jones, a man to definitely be credited with the possibility of being able to dethrone that number 13 of John Natale. Right now, though, he has got to get around the experience of Joe Bird heading up Mount St. Helens now. Look at the horsepower. You can see that they all three seem to be evenly matched. No riders gaining any ground there. No riders losing any ground on that section of the race course. Again, a huge long run to the top of that mountain. Here's your leader once more, John Natale, and that lead back into the second place position, not very big. So if Natale was to have any sort of a problem, miscue on the racetrack or a mechanical problem, either one of these riders, Bird or Jones, could capitalize on it. But chances are the champion is not going to suffer from any mechanical failures, as this machine seems to be dialed in perfectly for today's racing action. And look at this. Jones has made the pass on the number 7 of Joe Bird. And now looks like Bird is trying to strike back, trying to come from the inside, not able to come back into it. So Jones has moved into the number 2 spot. Joe Bird back in 3rd. Let's see if Bird has anything for him now as we head through these S-turn sections and now into the whoop section. Here comes Jeremiah Jones. He looks like he's trying to close the gap on the number 13 of John Natale as we go big air through this race course. Doug Gust running back in 4th place now as he moves up from 6th place. Keith Little in the 5th place spot, and Joe Havasto back in 6th spot. So it looks like that Jeremiah Jones and Doug Gust are moving up. And what's going on here with Jeremiah Jones? Jones is pulling off to the side of the racetrack, and it looks like a broken rear shock quite possibly as he made his way into that whoop section. Could have bent something, could have broke something, whatever it was. It is not good news for the number 2 Suzuki racer of Jeremiah Jones. Now moving up to a 3rd place position, Digger Doug Gust aboard the number 55. It looks like Gust is going to have a good second moto now at the expense of his teammate Jeremiah Jones. Meanwhile, big sigh of relief for that rider right there, the number 13 of John Natale. Those stories could have been true. It could be the year of Jeremiah Jones, but we're not going to find out here today at Glen Helen Raceway because Jones is out of the race and John Natale, the Ironman, is beginning to open up an even bigger lead now since Jeremiah Jones had the mechanical problems out there. So we will not tell the true story until at least round number 2 between Jeremiah Jones and John Natale as to who is the faster rider. Right now, it is John Natale as he is proving himself consistently moto to moto, no mechanical breakdowns, and a flawless ride here at Glen Helen Raceway. Lap number 5, about the halfway point of this second moto of racing, and Natale looks like he is on his way to quite possibly setting a record for himself, possibly on his way to a second championship season And, you know, looking at this racetrack, we pointed out the fact that it's gotten rougher and rougher over the course of both of these motos. Look at the consistency of this soil. It's a very sandy soil out here in Southern California, at least here at Glen Helen Raceway. And we've seen these berms go from about 6 inches to about 6 feet, believe it or not. Let's check in with that leaderboard now and see how things are breaking down at the halfway point. John Natale, Joe Bird, Doug Gust up to third, Keith Little in fourth, and Joe Havistow, who finished ninth in moto number 1, rounds out your top 5 now. Just a few more laps to go. We are in the home stretch, and the number 7 of Joe Bird is trying to reel in John Natale, but more importantly, trying to fend off the advancements of the 55 of Doug Gust, as well as the number 12 of Keith Little, and that 5th place ride, Joe Havistow, aboard the number 75. Look at the three-way battle right now going on for 3rd place. Looks like quite possibly that Gust has his hands full, as John Natale could have had his hands full with Jeremiah Jones, but that's not the case now. Joe Bird still running back in 2nd place. Looks like that Natale beginning to stretch it out, not as much as what some may have thought he would be able to do at this point in the moto. Back up and down Mount St. Helens, and again, very rough conditions, very high berms, creating very rough riding and racing conditions out there, making it tough for any rider to hang on to it. You better hope that your suspension is working top-notch today, folks, because you're using every centimeter that it has to afford you out there on a racetrack like you've got out here today. And that's one thing that these riders are very in tune to, is the way their suspensions are set up out there. And you can see that it has to be smooth. You can't be bucked around a whole lot, or it could cost you the race. Doug Gust back in 3rd, and his teammate Jeremiah Jones starting the season with high expectations, and Susie Meister had a chance to talk with him.
I've really been doing my homework. I got a newborn son this winter, and basically after he was born, I've really been pushing it hard to try to come out and put a good show on for the fans and for Suzuki and everybody, all my sponsors. So really been pushing it hard. So really want to win the championship. It's been a couple years now since I won the championship. So really pushing for it for 2006.
Well, pushing it here in the first race of 2006, not working out too well for Jeremiah Jones, but don't count him out just yet. That's just one of those fluke things that happen to a rider, especially of his caliber. And what's really neat is riders of his caliber are usually able to bounce back. Speaking of bouncing back, this rider right here bouncing back after the winter of all the skeptics saying that John Natale would not be able to pull off 2 years in a row. Well, he may be quieting the naysayers just a little bit here in this second moto of racing. Now, the first moto, you could say maybe it was just luck, but the second moto, consistency is starting to shine through early on in this 2006 season. Another rider starting to show some great consistency early on, the number 7 of Joe Bird. He wrapped up the 2005 season with the win, and he's opening up what looks like to be with a possible overall second here at the opening round of the 06 season at Glen Helen Raceway. But he's got to get around that number 13 of John Natale and put some distance, like maybe a couple of positions between himself and Natale, in order for Joe Bird to be able to take the opening win. And that's going to be tough to do, especially when the Ironman is out front this far ahead of the rest of the field. So barring no physical problems or no mechanical problems, or even mental mistakes on the part of the number 13 of John Natale, he should be able to walk away with a 1-1 to open up the 06 season, and we keep an eye on it. What was that? Look at that. Looks like the number 13 seat of John Natale, his seat is beginning to bounce off. You can see him messing with it right there. What is going on? And not only is it falling off, it has fallen off, folks. John Natale has lost his seat with the lead here in the second moto. Is that going to create a problem for him? Let's take a look at that one more time in our ITP replays. You can see it's getting real loose, gotten real loose at this point, and just simply falls off. Will it affect the champ in any way, shape, or form throughout the remainder of this race? We've only got just a handful of laps to go. Joe Bird back in second, Doug Gust back in third, and Natale without a way to rest with the remainder of this moto still to go here at Glen Helen.
There goes Natalie. Looks like he's still on the charge. The number 7 of Bird looks like he may see a weakness and may be trying to focus in on that and actually take advantage of a situation on the uphill section. Now that whoops out uphill section, John Natale slowing down and actually waving Joe Bird by. You saw Joe Bird give him the thumbs up and say thank you, but at this point it looks like the 13 of Natale may be doing the math in his head. Hey, I can let the number 7 of Bird go by. I can hold on to second, and I will still be able to walk away with the overall win here today. So John Natale doing the math out there, thinking very clearly, it looks like, as a champion does here on lap number 8, knowing that he has the overall win wrapped up, even if he lets Joe Bird go through. Bird got a third in moto number 1, so a 3-1 scores him 4, where Natale's 1-2 would score him an overall 3, still the lowest score of the day. And that would give Natale still the number 1 spot. But you know that a good boost of energy there for the number 7 of Joe Bird after winning last year's last race and opening up with a second moto win at the season's first race in 06. And Joe Bird riding a huge wave of confidence, could possibly be a threat to the title this year. You never can tell. It's still early in the season. The battle for second now waging on, and Natale could be seeing his first win of the season slip from his fingertips as the 55 of Gust is mounting a challenge now for second place, and there he comes back at him. The number 13 of Natale striking right back, but will he be able to fend him off? Gust on the outside with a lot of momentum, and over that double is able to make the pass, and it looks like it is solidified. Natale, without the seat, has no room to be able to fight back and try to challenge Digger Doug Gust for that number 2 spot. And that could spell disaster for the 13 of Natale, but a big, big boost for the number 7 of Joe Bird. As the number 13 drops off the third, we're looking at a tie situation, a 3-1 for Joe Bird, a 1-3 for John Natale, and obviously the best finish in the second moto breaks all ties, and Joe Bird could see back-to-back wins. A win from last year's last race and the win from this year's first race. But keeping an eye on that battle for second, it doesn't look like Natale is going to give up that easily. Doug Gust still in second, but Natale still within striking distance with or without the seat. It doesn't matter. Final lap of racing now. The number 7 of Joe Bird on his way up Mount St. Helens now for the last trip up and the last trip down. There goes Joe Bird. Here comes Digger Doug, the number 55, and as we check back for third place, it is starting to open up a gap now between second and third place. Natale not nearly in as much of a striking position as he was only a quarter of a lap ago. Joe Bird on the final lap of racing through that washed out section, a lot of sand through there, a lot of rocks, and a very rough racetrack is going to be in the memory banks of Joe Bird as he opens up this 2006 season with the win with a 3-1. Third place in Moto number 1, a first place in Moto number 2. Again, just enough to score the win. Digger Doug Gust, a fourth and a second, should be enough to score the overall third, as Natale should be able to hold on to the overall second. But again, still a little ways to go before those checkers fly, and we do not want to call this race until the checkers are out and these riders have crossed that finish line. And speaking of crossing finish lines, will the number 13 be able to hold on to at least a third place position? Doesn't look like much company back there, and no company for the number 7 as he pumps the fist in the air to a second moto win and the overall win for the first race at Glen Helen Raceway in 2006. Doug Gust coming across in second place. Third place will go to John Natale here in Moto number 2. Let's head on down to the winner's circle and talk with Joe Bird.
Joe, last time I talked to you, you said that your strategy for Moto number 2 was to win, and you weren't kidding. How'd you do it?
Rode smart, I didn't push the envelope, and I could have charged harder, but I want to come out this weekend with a good, strong finish, and lucky for me, that's the way it worked out. I'd just be lucky as good any day.
Taking a look at those Moose Pro Moto 2 results. Bird, Gust, Natale, Little holds on to a fourth place position. Havistow up to a fifth place here in the second moto. So things are really jumbled up as we head into our second round of racing. After we combine Moto 1 and Moto 2 results, this is what we've got for the overall. Bird, Natale, Gust, Little, and Havistow. Tavis Kane 6th, Luberg in 7th, Dunkelberger in the 8th place position.
A crazy and wild and wacky start to the season, but let's head on down and talk to our second and third place finishers.
Yeah, I had a really good hole shot going through the first turn, and Joe snuck around me going down into the next turn. I hit a berm and got a little excited, first race jitters of the year, and I ended up getting around him, I think, second or third lap, and I got comfortable, pulled out the pretty decent lead, I think 5-6 seconds, and come around to one turn and ended up losing my seat, and I kind of debated whether to stop and put it back on or not, and I think I made the wrong decision. I just left it off, and for 2 laps I had to take the frame in the butt for about, I don't know, maybe 5-6 minutes, and I just couldn't hold on. My arms got too tired, and Doug ended up, I didn't want to cause any problems and take anybody out the first race of the year, so I just left Joe around, and Doug ended up catching me. And
You think it takes a little bit of pressure off of you now? Maybe people are taking that target off your back?
I'm sure there's still going to be a target because I rode really well this weekend. The bike worked really good, so until somebody else dethrones me and takes the championship from me, I'm sure there's still going to be a target. Everybody wants it, so but it takes a lot of pressure off of me because I know that I'm ready, and I know I did my homework and I did my training. So we're going to go to Texas and see what happens there.
Well, congratulations. We wish you the best.
Thank you very much.
Doug, tell us about a little bit what happened in this race and the second moto in particular.
Well, I come off to probably a 6th place start, and I was riding hard, but there's a lot of fast guys out there. My LTR 450 Suzuki was working great. I'm not in shape yet, and it's a long season, so I was just trying to be consistent, and a couple things went my way, and I seen John starting to slow down, so I said, hey, I gotta pass him so I can get up on the podium, and that's what I did. I dug deep, and I got up there, and I can't thank my team enough. Suzuki, Oshamir, Wayne Hinson, my manager, my mechanics, Paul and Ryan, everybody in the team that's helping out, Fox Shocks, Fly Clothing, everybody. I got so many out there. If without them guys, I wouldn't be here right now.
We think you did great. Congratulations, and we'll see you next time.
Thank you.
Well, by only 8% of the people polled thought that man right there would actually pull off a first-round win. Joe Bird does it. Natalie in second, shutting the naysayers up just a little, and Doug Gust showing that he still got it. Will he have it for round number 2? We'll have to wait and see, but we got more amateur racing coming up right now. Senior Plus 40, class number 19, our pioneers of ATV motocross, if you will. As we check in early on, it's the number 19 of Carmen Capro from Vista, California, who grabs the early lead, but has company from that number 5 Yamaha rider of Steve Beilman. Beilman out of El Cajon, California. You can see Beilman actually gets pushed over the berm there, but is able to make up ground and eventually make the pass on board his Yamaha, and Steve Beilman actually gets the moto win before it's all said and done. Carmen Capro, though, will finish up in a 3rd place position, but as we look at the overall moto results, believe it or not, Beilman takes the moto win here, but finishes 9th in moto number 2, which drops him all the way off to a 7th place position. A 5.3 is good enough for Carmen Capro out of Vista, California, on board the number 19 to take the win. The 44 of James Perry in second, and the 112 of Tommy Tantillo rounding out the top 3. Class 20 and 21 combined here. It's our women's production and our women's sport classes, and classic battles about ready to take place already early on in the 2006 season. It's a battle for the lead right from the get-go. The number 1 and champion Heather Bird being challenged by the number 2 of Angela Butler, a.k.a. Big Bad Angela Moore, out of Laveen, Arizona, formerly of Pennsylvania. And, of course, she's running in the number 2 spot. Jamie Luberg, the number 25, back in 3rd out of New Concord, Ohio. And 4th place, the 113 Yamaha pilot of Michelle Reiser. She's out of Houtzdale, Pennsylvania, running in the number 4 spot. And we see the battle really waging on there. Back in the women's sport class, it's Adrian Cooper, Emma Mockin, Tammy Balzer, and Susan Henry all battling it out. And as far as the results go, Bird gets the win with a 1-1. Butler in 2nd, Luberg in 3rd, and Reiser in 4th in the women's production class. As we move on now to our women's sports results, it's Cooper, Mockin, Balzer, Henry, and Slade to round out the top 5. It's Class 22 now, the 4-stroke stock production division. We get a chance to see some of those LT R450 quad racers out here as things open up. It's the number 66 of Kane Smead from Quartz Hill, California with the early lead. And again, he is riding one of those brand spanking new Suzukis that was just released, and they were released to the media. It's Smead, a part of the media frenzy that is taking place here at Glen Helen Raceway, the season opener to the 2006 ITP Moose Racing ATV National Series. And as you can see, more Suzuki riders battling it out, and they do include the 87 Suzuki of Cody Anderson from Waconia, Minnesota, and also the 911X of Darren Heft. And he was in that number 3 spot back there for a good portion of this race, and the number 34 Suzuki of Adam Campbell. He's from Valencia, California, and he's riding a really strong race here in Moto number 1. Will he be able to keep it up through the entire Moto? We'll just have to wait and see. As the Moto wears on, Cody Anderson, the number 87, moves into the lead, and it looks like Anderson is going to end up being the one to beat in this division. As you can see already, these riders trying to chase him down. Anderson aboard the 87 Suzuki, Smead aboard the number 66 Suzuki, and when it's all said and done, we see a deja vu basically from Moto 1 to Moto 2, with Anderson taking the win, Smead in second, and Heft rounding out the top 3. They go 1-1, 2-2, and 3-3. Now it's youth production, 13 to 15-year-olds. This is class number 24 on a race docket. As we head down to the starting line, it looks like, well, out of those first few turns and on the lower section of the race course, things are beginning to sort out quite a bit, as that number 104 of Jake Bertain out of Shelbyville, Indiana, on board that Honda, has grabbed an early lead there, but he's got plenty of company out of several other riders, including the number 30 Honda rider of Neil McGrath from Bradenton, Florida, the 83 of Bobby Mazie out of Bellamede, Wisconsin, and the leader of Division number 2, the 85 of Zachary Strong from Salem, Oregon, in Moto number 1. There's the 155 of Sean Wiebelt out of Melbourne, Florida. He takes a third-place finish in his first Moto of racing, but right now we can see the battling is going on for that fourth-place position. Is not only is he trying to get that, but he's also trying to work his way up through the pack. The 55 of Jay Corey, he's from Crawfordsville, Indiana, and that number 55 machine actually finishing 5th in both of his motos to take an overall 6th place position before it's all said and done. And as we battle our way to the finish line and a chance to check out those overall results, check out this last lap battle that is taking place between the 155 of Sean Wiebelt and that number 83 of Bobby Mazie on the Honda from Bellamede, Wisconsin. He's able to get around, but as the moto wears on, the number 30 of Neil McGrath from Bradenton, Florida, steps up to mount a challenge late in the race. But when it's all said and done, it is going to be Bobby Mazie taking the win in Moto number 1, but Neil McGrath will return the favor in Moto number 2 as he'll take the second Moto win and also the overall here in this youth production class number 24. As we take a look now at our Moose Racing ITP Parts Unlimited results board, it is going to be McGrath, Mazie, and Smackarez 1, 2, and 3, Ryan Anderson in 4th, and Dean Pierce rounding out the top 5. Production Senior, the 71 to 90 cc riders, 12 to 15-year-olds. It's class number 25 as they make their way across this racetrack. Now, one thing to point out, these kids don't have to go up Mount St. Helens, so they've got a little bit of a shortened race course, but the Cobra from Bordertown, New Jersey, Brent Mara, number 93, grabs the early lead in our 12 to 15-year-old production senior class, and Mara looks like he's going to be the man to beat here. Back there in the number 2 spot, the rider that's trying to lay chase from Florence, Alabama, will be Brandon Rhodes. Brandon Rhodes riding the white plastic Honda is in the hunt here in this first Moto of racing. Also, a little further back in the number 4 spot is Christy Lorene. She's out of Amity, Pennsylvania, and right ahead of her is the Casilla rider number 32, Chris Conley out of Lake Elsinore, California. They've got their own battle going on right now, though. Brent Mara is taking it to the field, as they say, from Bordertown, New Jersey, as that number 93 Cobra is going to take the win. Back in second, it will be Rhodes. Christy Lorene takes a 4th in Moto 1 with a 2nd place finish in Moto number 2 to round out the top 3. Chris Conley in 4th, and rounding out the top 5 is Kelsey Lorene.
Hi, I'm Pro ATV racer Tim Farr. I'm here with Donnie Luce from White Brothers today. We're going to talk about the Carbon Pro exhaust systems that our team uses.
Thanks, Tim. We have our Carbon Pro exhaust, which started life with American Honda back in '02 in the motocross scene. We transitioned over with Tim last year and was able to help him win his 10th national championship. It has a stainless steel head pipe, stainless steel mid-pipe, billet aluminum inlet, and also mounting brackets. It has a square clips patented design carbon fiber can. It has a magnesium end cap with a billet aluminum adjustable end tips. These tips are also adjustable for the particular track needs or the particular style of the rider.
Thanks, Donnie. This is really a great, lightweight, high-performance product. It's available at motorsport.com.
90cc production junior 8 to 11-year-olds now, basically the same class we saw a few moments ago, only with riders 8 to 11 years old, and off to a great battle in the early goings of this race. We had a couple of different divisions that we were racing here. Some of the early leaders, number 96 Chase Loomis, and also the Honda rider TJ Beckman aboard the number 8 machine. Jesse Skavarik aboard the number 32. He's out of Jefferson, Ohio. Also another rider to keep an eye out on is that number 29 machine of Derek Craig from Apache, Arizona. As we can see right now, it looks like the number 8 of TJ Beckman from Queen Creek, Arizona is actually mounting a challenge for one of the top 3 positions. He's in 3rd right now, challenging for 2nd as these riders make their way out of that washout section of the race course where there's some huge rocks over there. And the battling still continues. A 3-way race up front here. This is one division. As we check in with our other division, looks like the number 29 Honda rider of Derek Craig from Apache, Arizona, running in the lead here early in the race, but as the race wears on, he's going to end up falling off to a 2nd place position, but it looks like he is tough to beat. Well, things like that might cause some problems. This rider right here, he is that number 6 machine. That is Taylor Ramey from Vancouver, Washington. Also the number 22 machine out there is Tyler Beckman from Queen Creek, Arizona. He's going to end up finishing a 9th place position. But up front in division number 1 is TJ Beckman aboard the number 8 machine. Bad news for Beckman. TJ aboard the number 8. He will actually finish 2nd in the moto, but is unable to start moto number 2. So he'll be charged with an overall 19th place position when it's all said and done. There's that battle between Taylor Ramey, the number 6, and the 22 of Tyler Beckman as they take it on home to the checker flag. Again, as it's all said and done, Jesse Skavarik, who wins in the other division, it is actually going to take the overall win with a 1-2. Andy Witten, the number 18 from Florence, Alabama, will take the overall 2nd with a 3-4. Ty Jackson will round out the top 3 aboard the number 11 out of Lake Elsinore, California, with a 3-5. Battle next, the 90cc modified 8 to 15-year-old class. This one going to be a barn burner indeed. As we check things out, the early lead belonging to the 88 Casilla rider, Joel Hetrick, out of Seneca, Pennsylvania. He's being chased down by the 104 Honda of Jake Bertain out of Shelbyville, Indiana. Other riders to keep an eye on out there, the 32 of Jesse Skavarik from Jefferson, Ohio, as well as Glen Masung from Trafford, Pennsylvania, and Brittany Snyder, a Kawasaki pilot aboard the number 7 out of Allentown, Michigan. Quickly, though, as things separate, it is a battle for the lead between Hetrick, the number 88, and the 104, Bertain on the Kellogg's FMF Honda-backed Media All-Stars team. And this young man is only beginning his career. He's got a team, yes, believe it or not, that he rides with, and it is one of the top youth riders in the country, along with the 88 of Joel Hetrick. We'll see lots of great things out of these riders as their careers progress. And let's take a look at those overall results here in the first race of the 2006 season. Is Bertain out front when it's all said and done with a 2-1. Joel Hetrick in 2nd. Jesse Skavarik rounds out the top 3. 70 shifter 6 to 11-year-olds now here at Glen Helen Raceway, the first race of the season. Here's the way things began to heat up early on. The 44 Cobra rider from Murray, Kentucky, Tyler Pittman, grabbing the early lead, and it looks like he is going to be the man to beat in this class as he was virtually uncontested through the first 2 motos of the 2006 ITP Moose Racing season. As we get a good look at why this kid is out front by himself. He is smooth and he is fast. And check out the big air he's able to pull off there. David Beer running in the number 2 spot aboard the 649 is from Dyer, Indiana, and he'll actually finish a 2-2 to start the season here in 06. Riders behind him, the 03 Casilla rider Austin Baxter from Taft, California, and some more East Coasters, the number 17 of Reed Eckert aboard a Cobra and the number 127 of Carly Eckert Both of those riders from Jasper, Indiana. And when it's all said and done, it is still the 44 of Tyler Pittman, the one to beat, with David Beer running second, Austin Baxter rounding out the top three. They do that consecutively in Moto 1 to Moto number 2 as we watch the Cobra rider work his way around the racetrack. Also the 649 Cobra rider, David Beer, Dyer, Indiana. These two riders, I don't think we're actually seeing the full potential of what kind of battles we're going to be able to witness between these two riders, and actually, I guess you could say for the most part, between all 5 of these riders, as I believe they're all 5 going to be hitting the entire 2006 circuit. As we take a look now at our overall results, it's Pittman, Beer, Baxter, Eckert, and Tanner Day. Continuing with our youth classes, this is the 70cc production, 6 to 11-year-old riders, and we get a glimpse again at some of our future lady stars, one of those including the number 20 of Hannah Sharp from Crestwood, Kentucky. The 00, though, of Tanner Day, the Casilla rider from Boring, Oregon, grabs an early lead, but is quickly dethroned by the 53 of Ellis Rampales from Estacada, Oregon. And, of course, he is going to try to fend off the advancements of the number 20 of Hannah Sharp from Crestwood, Kentucky. Hannah Sharp running a very strong moto. There's Carly Eckert, also one of the up-and-coming young lady stars aboard the number 17 from Jasper, Indiana. Kind of a look-see into the future, if you will, of our women's class as well as our men's pro class here in these youth classes. That's what's so great about these grassroots classes that help these riders establish themselves as racers early on. And this is the way it all breaks down when it's all said and done. Jeremy Ladon takes the overall win. Hannah Sharp with a 3-2 finishes second, and Cole Sapisi aboard the number 345 rounds out the top 3. Now to the 50 production class, auto 6 to 8-year-olds, and we'll see a lot of the same names in this one as we saw in that 51 to 70cc production class as they head through Talladega's first turn here at Glen Helen Raceway. Jeremy Ladon, the number 99, again out front, and Ladon is going to be the one to beat here in this 0 to 50cc division as he was in the 70cc class. Tommy Harris, the number 10 machine from Torrance, California, opening up with a strong run there. And also back there is Reed Eckert aboard the number 17, the 345 of Cole Sapisi as he takes the second place position. And they'll finish up in Moto 1 to Moto 2. Deja vu, the exact same order through our top 3. Ladon, Sapisi, and Harris 1, 2, and 3. Reed Eckert in 4th, and Buddy Williams rounding out the top 5. 50cc stock limited 4 to 6-year-olds, more of the same class of riders, but we've got a few different riders in this one. As we can see in the stock limited class, the number 16 Casilla, Buddy Williams, the number 88, that is Stan Digby out of Fulton, Mississippi. Also the 99 of Cameron Donahoe out of Puyallup, Washington. There's Buddy Williams aboard the number 16. He grabs the early lead out of Blythe, California, one of our West Coast riders. We see more of our West Coast riders, it seems like, in some of these younger classes than we do in some of the others, as we have a lot of East Coast riders showing up, I think, in our A and B classes, but our novice classes and our youth classes have been stockpiled a lot with some California riders. As we look back there, that was number 9 of Caitlin Harris out of Torrance, California, running in that number 3 spot there in Moto number 1. When it's all said and done, after 2 motos of racing, this is the way it all breaks down with a 1-1. Buddy Williams takes the win. Stan Digby with a 3-2 takes second, and the number 99 of Cameron Donahoe with a 2-3 will take the overall third.